Hello, this is Max Drake. I just want to talk to you about inventory apps at this point in time. I did one quite a while back, freezer inventory, and I actually put a lot of the information in regarding items that I was putting in the freezer. Had to put them in via the spreadsheet, and then on this one here I actually just had something where if I took something out I could actually go through and adjust it and go, it's been used, and then we moved from inventory to use. So there's a use tab and an inventory, and it just gets taken from one and moves across to the other one. I was hoping to use a scanner to be able to use a QR codes. I bought a Dymo label maker where I could actually create little half-inch high QR codes, and I thought that would be handy to actually just label things to use. I ended up not being able to use the scanner, or rather I actually had to open up the scanner, scan the actual barcode, I'd get the actual text from that, I'd actually have to paste it into the other one to actually use it. So I wasn't actually working directly inside GlideApps. So I sort of put it down and let it rest at that point in time. So I didn't think, and so this is the issue, just a general big picture of GlideApps in a way of, because it's a web-based app, it can't really reach in and use the sensors from your phone. But because it's web-based, you can access it from anywhere on any device, which is its power in a way. Now, I did do an exercise on creating an app inventor app that would actually read GPS locations that I walked around, and it would then send that to a Google Sheet, and then inside GlideApp I could actually pull that data in and actually display it on a map. But again, I was actually having to use a native app on the Android that would actually be able to access certain sensors. Now, GlideApp actually has the location sensor, and in fact you can get a location sensor from on your PC just by the browser that actually goes and finds your IP address. There's a bit of JavaScript you write, trigger it off, give it permission, and off it goes. So that was one of the things that I sort of put it down because of the fact that getting information into it was quite difficult. Now, as I was mooching around and looking, I came across this particular one by Kristen Voigt. I like his layout. I think this is really fun. I haven't quite figured out how he's done this. Unfortunately, if you hit the buttons, it only hits one button. So if you hit four times, nothing happens. You only get the 4 the one time. So if you've got something like 55 items or 44 items, you've actually got to put it in manually. But what this does is it takes an image. So if you actually grab an image, and it hasn't quite got this working, but if you grab an image through here, and I'm just going to use the barcode there and pull it up, you see it's uploading, and then this finally goes a color through there. It's actually got a JPEG through there, and then it's sort of notionally you'd get a reader out of that, and then you could add the inventory. But when we actually go and look at the actual image coming through, and it's got a barcode scans and latest scans, and see that he's pushing it up to Cloudinary or somewhere, and so the image is going up, something's reading that barcode, and then it comes down. I think he's using the Google Apps API chart, which is doing it, and that actually has a control O, or a caret and O on that one, so that's not a particularly good one, but it's actually come back and returned the information on that particular barcode. Now, how's it doing that? Well, here's a QR code one online. So I can upload a barcode, and I want to find one which is reasonably dense. So that one's quite dense. So I'll pick that one there and open that up. So that's uploaded the information, and it's returned the text from that QR code. So it's taken an image, and it says in that image somewhere is a QR code. So take the information from that and send back that. So you could do that by an API call. Now, there are APIs where you can send the image across, and whether it's a barcode or a QR code, and then it'll decode it and send you back the text. Now, because it's uploading the image, it's going to take a little bit of a while. So if you've taken a picture with a camera, depending on how many pixels are in the actual picture itself, it could be a big upload time, and then sending back a bit of text is pretty quick. So that's quite good. So I think that's how the notion is that he's actually got that API code in here to work through there. And I think there's other ones. So if we actually just go see all, and I go and look at another one through there, you see that's actually brought back the code through there as the text that it's actually reading. So that's really good. So the notion, I quite like the notion. I don't think this is quite operational yet, but I quite like the idea of what it's doing and the notion behind that. Because this is a way, but you see it was quite slow reading it from the barcode. So getting the image and doing this and sending it off and doing something else with it was taking a little bit of time, as I said. So if we just do that again, you see uploading 0%, it's now 100%, and then now. So that's quite long to actually read. So it can be a little bit frustrating from that point of view. So then taking that, one of the toys that I'm actually looking at this point in time is this thing here, which is the barcode scanner. Now, I've got a mobile one, and there's a few little things I'm exploring on this. But one of the ones I suddenly thought, when I was messing around with this, it's got a little dongle that you actually just put into your USB port on your thing. And so anything you scan, if I just go into this item here, if I scan one of these barcodes like this one here, so which one am I waving at? That one there, WTR1. Oh, it's woken up now. It's just saying over. So it's done there. It's done WTR1. If I go to the one above it, it will do that. And if I go to the one above it, it does that. Now you see, after it's actually written that code, it does a carriage return to the next one down there. Now that's something that you can scan into the barcode reader, the actual book that comes with it. It tells you whether you want a carriage return, or it can do a tab. So instead of returning down and doing an entry, it tabs across to the next one like that. So these barcodes here I want to go do a couple of things now. So first of all, I just want to go and talk about Google Sheets, and there's this gentleman here, Learn Google Spreadsheets. I have fantastic admiration for him. He does fantastic videos. There's this one here on inventory management system template. So I actually downloaded it from his video through here, and I uploaded it, so I actually have a copy through here. So I suddenly thought, well, I'm just going to play with this because I'm interested in playing with the barcode reader. And I thought, well, how can I use that? So I'll just build a little GlideApp. And the other thing which I found with the barcode reader is that I can actually plug it through and connect through into my device. Now, you can actually just get either a USB female connector directly into a male micro connector, or I suppose there's the equivalent to an Apple or something like that. So you can actually plug in the barcode reader directly here. Now, it's just being a little bit typical because it's using a different keyboard. When you're actually sending the information coming through, it normally pops up and starts asking me. I have got an older phone myself. When you pull up the now where's my code? I want that one there. When you pull up your thing, you do need to just register, because it's basically sending keys through a keyboard. So I've got to do the keyboard settings on this. Anyway, oh, look at those. How's that come in there? Let's just go and find that at the moment. Don't know why it's got all of those SK thing ones. So if I go in and I put a QR code through into there, it should be trying to read. Oh, no, it's still reading it on there. So it's not. It hasn't quite synced into here yet. For some unknown reason, it's not reading this. It was reading it before, so I could actually fire directly into the app. One of the things I did a little bit of research, there's an interesting video, this one here about barcode generators and these numbers on the ends, which is quite interesting. But there's this gentleman here who talks about using, he bought a little $20 scanner, which just plugs directly into, so this one's a wired one scanner, and he bought a little $80 US tablet, and then they actually have a whole load of barcodes, and so each person could do their time. So they'd scan in their name, they'd scan in the project they were working in, and then they'd scan in the task, and straight away that goes live. Now this is something that to do with inventory apps at the moment. When I was actually doing some research on, there's the barcode side of things, which is actually getting the data, and then it had to put it somewhere. So here's just an example. I'm actually going to unplug it from the phone. Now I've shown you just that fiddly bit through there, and I'm back onto the screen here. Now if I've got my mouse here on the screen and I try reading a barcode, nothing happens because it's not inputting it anywhere. If I actually come into a spreadsheet and I come into a cell which will accept text, if I do that, then it actually works. So it needs to actually be receive something. So you need to have your app open, and you've got to be in the right cell for it to actually occur. So if I just come into the app and just blast all of these ones here out of the way, I can actually just go to this one here and press that one there, and you see it come through. But an interesting thing is, if we just go into here, if I scan that code there, it scans that and then goes to the next line. But if I go onto that one, you'll see it just has 3 letters and no space after it. But if I go into the actual app itself, you see there's an extra space on the end. And the reason why that is because if I go enter, it can't do a carriage return inside that thing there. So what I can actually do is that I can use my little book thing here and scan, which actually says remove carriage return. Then when I go and backspace this one here and do it, you'll see there's no carriage return, so it actually only had the 3 bits of text. Now, why is that important? If I'm doing a lookup, which this one here is, I've actually got a whole load of items with these particular codes. Now, what I can do is receive, when I scan one of these, it goes and looks up all of these other items through here. Or sorry, it's looking up the description and the pack. So it's looking up those items, but if I've actually got a space at the end of it, it doesn't recognize it as being the same piece of text. So therefore it doesn't come back with the thing. So this is some of the errors that are actually happening with some of these other ones here. It's not finding the right information, so it's not bringing and doing the VLOOKUP across onto the other cells to do that. So that's just one of the little foibles that I'm actually just picking up as I'm actually playing with these sorts of things. So if I'm doing on that, I'd most probably have another little barcode in here, which was remove the carriage return on it. And so when I got that one to do. Now let's just go a little bit further in. So inside, how do you actually create your barcodes? Well, actually inside Google Sheets, you can actually do that. So I've got a piece of text here, or a bit of text here or something like that, and I've got an asterisk. Now apparently with barcodes, you actually need an asterisk either end to actually make it readable. So I've got to have a B1 and then a thing through there. So if I just come through and I try and leave that one, oh sorry, where am I? No, I don't want to be there. I want to be somewhere like that. A lot of that there, it's no, you see, it keeps on reading the wrong blooming things, you see. It would do it, but it's maybe too small to actually read on those things there. What I find sometimes I've got to zoom right in, and then when I do it, it'll pick it up, and then it's still doing the 2, 3, 4, but it's picking up that from somewhere. I think it's picking up this one here to do the 2, 3, 4 down there. So that's just an item through here. Now, an interesting thing through here, you see this item here, which is 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 2, whatever, doesn't really matter. You see there's a space in there. Now, if I put a space, oh, sorry, so this is the barcode. So this is a 1D barcode. And how it does it is there's fonts that you choose a font that is called a barcode font. So it's just looking up and finding barcode fonts and actually doing them like that. So that's one way of doing it. Then you can just zoom in, do a screenshot and just stick it on a label or do something like that, or have it on a sidebar through there. The second way that you can do things is a QR code. Now what the QR code is actually doing is it's doing an image, but it's doing it's doing a request to Google APIs and asking for an image. Go and get the information on that one there on A1, and I want it 150 by 150. If I go to this one here, oh, that's 150 by 150. So I think one of these ones is 400 by 400. So if you drag it up, it will actually scale it accordingly as whatever it needs to do. Now this one is actually 150. So in some ways, the power of this in one of the things that you're doing is from one piece of text or from one string of unique IDs, so unique numbers, because you don't want them to have the same things for 2 different products, or else it all gets quite confusing. So you just got to make sure that you have enough numbers that or words and things so that it doesn't repeat itself. So when you do these, sorry, where's my zoomy? There I am. When you're doing this, you can actually put a phenomenal amount of text into here. So if you look in here, I'm just going to cut this out and go enter. You'll see that that has a lot. the dots are bigger. But if I try and put in a lot more information, you see the dots inside get smaller, so it ends up being harder to read. So you end up having to make the QR codes bigger to actually be able to read those. It's the same with the long ones of these. You've got to bring your scanner back far enough to be able to read all of the things coming in. But these these 1D barcodes will accept a space. Now, if I go into any of these ones, I'm just going to go into green is nice in this one, and I'm going to give a space on the end. And you see the QR code disappears. It doesn't like spaces. Even if it's at the end, in the middle, so if I just put a space in there, if I go back and I have it back and operational there again, this is one of the things that confused me. I couldn't understand why it wasn't working. If I just put a space in, it won't go. So this one doesn't like a space. So it would do underscores. It does all, you can have all sorts of weird numbers and things in it or whatever, or symbols, but it doesn't like the space through there. So you can generate your information through here. So this is brilliant. So within Google Sheets and within the GlideApp, you can actually get your QR codes. You can actually bang them onto things. So what's the other pleasure? So there's a couple of nice things here. Having a QR code, like if you were trying to type this massive string of stuff in here and you were typing that in, you'd most probably make errors. So that's a nice thing with using a barcode scanner. You can actually get quite complicated numbers or something like that, and it actually puts the data in accurately. Now, based on that, this is a bit like a primary key in a database. So if you've got a database table and you have one key, when you get that right key, so it's like a unique ID on that, you can then access a whole string of the row in that table or all of the columns in that table associated with that row with a key. So this is the same thing you can do here. Now, again, another thing that I've been looking at, a lot of the current inventory apps or tools that are online for retail and all of those sorts of things, they're all up in the cloud. The reason they're up in the cloud so that you can access them everywhere. Some of the old ones from the 80s and 90s, and I've been looking at some of those, still haven't played with them very much, I've just found out about them. They're on basically a PC. So you set it up all on one PC, and that's where all the data's held. But you actually need it somewhere in the cloud. So this is the beauty of GlideApps and Google Sheets, is that it's in the cloud, so you can actually access it from anywhere. So the idea is of what I was looking at here is that you can actually put your code through there. You can put what is the cost per pack, and we can just say 23 and what quantity, and we can just say 56, and we can add that, and now we should see it adding into our column. Now this is a little bit glitchy at the moment, and the reason why is that I've just used as a back end his formulaic app. So this is doing a lookup, a VLOOKUP inside of Google Sheets, whereas in the Inventor I should be actually using the data columns, and I should be coming through into here and creating, come on, get on with you. I should be creating a new column, and this column would be called description or whatever, and that column would be type lookup or if then else or whatever. So it would actually go through and associate that column by going and getting the information from the other sheet. So you should, with the new Glide things, you should be using the data panel rather than doing the formulas inside of Google Sheets. Use the Google Sheets formulas if you can't get the data from, if you can't do it through the data panel, is my feeling on the thing so far. So to actually build this app properly, it really needs to be, this one here, I really need to be built. So a lot of these columns here, I should actually base on doing them from the panel. So if I do that, I'd actually make it a template that people can use or purchase. So a few ideas happening around here. So within the Barcode Scanner, another notion that I actually want to use it for is for things like this. One of them, somebody in the order hot script keys for macros on Windows and things like that, he talks about an example of dog feeding in times is that there's a kennel or something, and the person just goes through with a barcode. So each cage has a barcode on it, and so they actually just scan that so they know what the dog name is associated or the animal associated with that particular cage. They then scan the feeding time that they actually feed them. They then scan the what food they get, and then maybe an inspection of their condition, or if they've done bowel movements or something like whatever. They can actually just scan things very, very quickly. So there's not a lot of typing. So it's very, very good for that. Now, if we just go back to this app, if there's only a few items, instead of actually using a barcode scanner, you would just turn this into a lookup. So you would actually just pull that down, and you pull it down and do a lookup. So if you've only got 10 or 15 or something like that, you can do it quite easily with a lookup. You don't need a scanner. But if you're doing, I saw a video of this woman who was, she was doing candles and perfumes and things like that. And she actually had a tablet that had a whole load of categories. One was candles, one was soaps, one was whatever, shampoos and things. And so she had the category, and then she had to go down and do the lookup, and it might be quite a long lookup in that thing to find that item, click on that item, which then came up into the basket to do, and then she'd have to go through. So if somebody came up to her with 5 or 6 items, she had to do that lookup every single time, and it was quite a long process at checkout. And then she demonstrated just how quickly it was with the barcode scanner. If each item had the barcode on it, you barcode read it, it looked up straight away and just put it onto the list. So from that point of view, it ended up being so much faster. So if you've got an awful lot of things, barcode scanners are the way to go. And the fact that you can actually use these mobile. Now, another thing which I'd say on playing with it, and I've only had it for a couple of days, is compared to a phone, one of the things we're trying to use the scanner on the phone is that you've got to get the right distance for the focus. You've got to actually, then it reads some sorts of barcodes and other sorts of barcodes. This one has some barcodes that it reads, and it's got a whole lot of different codes of 1D barcodes and 2D ones down to Aztec codes, and it does data matrix ones, which I've never heard of, which is like QR codes and things like that. So this one, you can actually just program it into the different ones you want. So this is a 1D and a 2D scanner, and a lot of the ones that you have. Now, I did see one where they were actually saying you could scan to Google Sheets, but you actually had to have a Scanit app. So it was called Scanit to Google Sheets, but you then had to download an Android app for Scanit, which would be the scanner that you use that would actually go and push that thing into that. So you have to then, whoever's using it has to load that specific app to actually make it work. So if you're on, I think there is an Apple and an Android sort of a one. But that, again, is getting away from the notion of GlideApps, of you then needing another app that you're bouncing between two apps. Whereas using something like a scanner and actually just having your fields inside the app, and then you just have your GlideApp and just fast straight away through there, it worked quite fine. So I think, there's the other thing here. So this is the receive one. Then you can do a sales one through here. So you can actually have a sales one, you can have the receive one, and then you've got the overall inventory. So this has the overall inventory. It's a really good video, so you should actually just watch this one anyway, because it's a pleasure to watch. And in the inventory, the inventory has a total up, and it also just says what current inventory you've got, what your estimate of your inventory actually is at this point in time. If you ended up spending too much on inventory, that you've got to start getting rid of some of the things. And in the sales part, you can actually set your price, or else you can actually set your price by items if the items don't change too much. Also in here, this is very, very simplistic as far as the item goes. With that code, all you can actually get is this and this in a way. The description now, that could actually be a title, which was Coca-Cola, and then the pack size that it comes through, but you can have a full description of its pink and blue with yellow dots on it. It sings and dances and all that sort of thing. You can have images. You can actually have maybe a video link that you want to pass through or something like that. You can pull an awful lot of data just by one cell with a little bit of information. Now again, you most probably end up with a more complicated code rather than the 3 or 4 letter ones through here, because of the fact that there's a chance of it being repeated or errors. Like, see, a lot of these actually start with WTR because they're to do with that's wallet, but these are ones that are water, so they're very, very similar as to way. So you might want an 8-digit or a 10-digit or something like that, which is not going to make these too much harder to read. It's just something you can try out. So from the point of view of doing a lot of these things, what was there? There was just another item that I wanted for if you actually had a massive list. So if you do have a massive list of these things here, so the example that I was going to use for a very simple example was the classic ones for online retail where they have t-shirts. So you actually just suddenly saying, well, I'm selling a black one, a red one, and a pink one. So that's 3 t-shirts, that's fine. But you're not. You're then selling a small, a medium, a large, an extra large, and an XX large or something like that. So you've suddenly got 5 sizes and you've got 3 types. So 3 fives are 15. So straight away you've got 15 different variations of all of those. So instead of actually having one code, you might have 2 codes. The first code might be color. And then the second one might be size, because again, you don't just want to say, I'm just going to have one code for color and I'm just going to have 3 pull down, so it's black, it's white, or it's red. Well, you might have that with a hat if it's an adjustable one, or a different styles and things like that. So suddenly, for something that's quite simple, as in a t-shirt, suddenly you've got 15 variations straight away, and that's just one product. So if you add other ones on and do things like that, you've got that. And so you've got to track the ones that you sell. So there's no point in selling a whole load of smalls and then suddenly having a whole lot of extra larges, or buying an extra large. You've got to make sure you've got the right ones. So having the flexibility to do those sorts of things is where the scanner comes in, and the fact that you can hook it up to the device. Now, where I can actually see something like this happening is you can actually have as a point of sale item. Now, the only dilemma that I've actually got to think about here is when you go and sell something, you scan through here and it comes through, and an item comes through as scanned all the way through. But say somebody's buying 3 or 4 purchase things, you want to identify them as a specific transaction. So all of those transactions go onto one sheet, and then you can do a sum total through there. So you've almost got to put them onto another sheet as a thing and then bring them back to do that. So that's something that I've got to sort of work through. Again, I just did hit this one just to show the example of actually being able to scan it in, and it's not worked on the phone at the moment because I think my phone is about 3 or 4 years old, so it's a bit temperamental. But it works. It was working fine at the beginning, so I was really wrapped with that. So the other thing that I wanted to say with that is that, for something like you go and sell things at a market, so you're actually out and away. You've got your barcode scanner, you can just hook it straight up here and you can scan all your items. Now, that was the second thing that I wanted to talk. Inside Google Sheets, there's an add-on called Autocrat. So you go down to manage add-ons and you go and get Autocrat, and there's a few videos on it because a lot of schools use it. And what they can actually do is that it creates a report, so they can actually take data out of certain cells, do a sum up or something like that, create a receipt that you can actually do, and then it'll email it to you, and it makes a copy and puts it onto your Google Drive somewhere, and it'll send it to you, your email. And then either if you've got a triple switch thing like this, you can actually have one of these for an electronic card reader if you've got some arrangement with your band that you can actually do an FPOS transaction through that, so to have a switch through there. Or either the other one is that you can actually have a printer, a small printer, a heat thermal printer or something like that you can actually have with a third port, or else you can actually just send them the invoice by the email, because it just does it and sends it. I'm not too sure what the turnaround on those ones are. I've actually got that on my website some here. There's a couple of things you can get an estimate or a quote on certain developing certain works and the cost of doing those. So those ones there will do it. I think you put your email in and then it fires off to you. So I've used the Autocrat for that. So that's there. So, and using this in the market is that you'd actually just have your QR codes with the actual idea of what's going in there, just in case your scanner wasn't working, that you can actually just type those codes in. Now, from the point of view, something like that's not a very good one, because you've got to go uppercase, and then take your hands off to make sure that you hit the 6 and not the caret symbol above it. So you actually want things which are easy to type. And again, just remembering that on mobile devices, as soon as you do the first letter, it usually goes to uppercase to begin with. So you might want to preset that or do something. So and the other one that I was a little bit concerned about was being offline. But if you were doing a market, presumably in your place with Wi-Fi, so you can actually get your app working. The other thing that you can actually do is that, if you're going to a place where there isn't going to be any Wi-Fi or something like that, you can export from Google Sheets to a CSV file, upload it. If you've got Excel as an app and your phone, you can upload it into there, and you've got your whole inventory ready to go. Actually, that is CSV will actually only do one tab at a time, but I suppose you'd need to download 3 or 4 of them through there, and you'd actually have to put them directly into an Excel sheet or do a slightly different way. But that's a way of doing it offline. That's one of the things with the online offline things. If you're doing these sorts of things, what happens when you go offline? You sort of have to do it old hand by manually in a way. So I hope that's been of interest to you. It's really just a lot of thoughts and things and gathering about, and it's just playing with this as a toy. I'll give a link to all of these other things that I've been demonstrating through here or just highlighting, and I hope that's found its interest. I'm really quite excited the fact that I can actually use a scanner with a GlideApp, because I actually think it's a fantastic way to go, either hooked up directly or with the Wi-Fi connection, so that I can go and scan things around. Because one of the areas that I'm quite interested in is asset management. So going to a property, and you can actually have QR codes around the place, like hidden in the door frame, and you can just go and scan that, and it'll just pull down data about that particular room or things like that. So you can do, so if you're doing property inspections or something like that, you can actually pull that information down, bang, through your app. I hope that's been of interest. Thumbs up if you think it's okay. Otherwise, op pan your heart. Thank you for watching.